MC leaders, Alan Smith coming at you. Our vision is to fill this entire area with the presence of Jesus through missional communities. We call that gospel saturation, and our metric is 1 MC per 1,000 of those who do not yet know Jesus. Now at Bay Area, our primary way for our MCs to grow is through the front doors of the church. And when the new people come in, they come to our next step, and then they meet me, and then I push them to you, and you know how that goes. Now, there's a problem with this. The problem is that most of the people who are coming in the front doors are already Christians coming from another church. They call this transfer growth. And so if we're going to reach this area, we're not going to do it through only this way of growing our MCs. We need to also have side doors. Side doors where MCs are reaching out to their lost friends and neighbors and inviting them into their MC. So the rest of this video, I want to introduce you to a tool called the invitation pathway. And hopefully that will be a way that would help make strangers into family members. Paul says in Colossians 4:5, be wise with the way you act with outsiders, making the most of every opportunity. God has given us opportunities with all of our context in our life. And so I want you to think of it this way. Think of 3 concentric circles here, and in each area we have a different environment we want to invite people into. We want to invite them into the touch zone, which are the people, that's where you're walking, and then you move them to the talk zone, and then finally tables. We're going to look at that one by one. Okay, so the first zone we're going to talk about is the touch zone, turning strangers into an acquaintance. Now, all around us, we have strangers in our life, don't we? And a stranger is someone we don't know who they are, we don't know their names. And acquaintances are people that we know their names and we see them, but we don't really know much else about them. Now, God has sovereignly placed us in where we live, work, and play, and all around us are strangers. And so to move someone from a stranger to an acquaintance, it's simple. You just ask them their name. Just ask them their name. Now, you probably have done this. I've done this as well. And you ask someone their name and you forget it. You just don't even remember their name. So let's be good missionaries and let's remember their names. And so to make a stranger an acquaintance is to ask them their name and remember it. And next time you see them, you call them by their name. Now, one requirement for the touch zone. So you have a busy life and you're going in 1,000 different directions. The requirement to make acquaintances is rhythm. Rhythm is how we get there, because if we are not consistent in a routine, then we won't see the same people over and over. But when you go back to the same workout place, when you go to the same coffee shop, when you go different places and you have a routine in your life, then you start seeing the same people, you can ask them their name, and then you can make an acquaintance. The next zone is the talk zone. And how to get to the talk zone is that when we start seeing the people over and over, we start knowing their names, God will open somebody up and they'll start talking to you. And they will start maybe turning a conversation to something superficial to something more substantial. So if this zone, the acquaintance zone, has to do with rhythm, this one has to do with receptivity. And so these will be your persons of peace. We talk about this in other trainings, but the friends are really your persons of peace. They're receptive ones to you, and they're the ones who open up their hearts to you. So what you do here is you just ask a lot of questions. Be curious about their life. You just continue to ask questions to learn more about your friend and becoming a friend. And so that's how you move from an acquaintance to a friend. Our last zone is tables. And at the table is where we become family. And eating is the central practice of families. This was Jesus's primary way of reaching people, is ministering to people at tables. Can you imagine eating in silence? Because when we don't just open our mouth to eat food, we open our mouth and we open our hearts in conversation. And so to get to the table requires a simple invitation. This is, friends, the primary reason why God has placed you with these people in your life, to introduce them to Jesus' family and introduce them to Jesus himself. So if God gives you an opportunity to talk to one of your friends that you've been talking with to eat, it may be your missional community. If you invite them to your missional community, you may consider just suspending your normal MC things that you're doing and focus on your new visitor and get them to tell their story. Ask them questions, get to know them, and then turn the tables, and then you can tell your story, maybe your testimony, how you got to know Jesus. But I want to be clear, you do not have to invite them to your MC. You can't invite them with a few other Christians to another table. And so whatever it looks like, this is where it looks like to get to a table, to begin to talk with them. And if you love this person, you'll eventually share your love for Jesus to them. So we all have limitations, right? But we also have margin. God has put people into our place, into our lives where we live, work, and play. Paul says, let's be wise with the outsiders, with our strangers, and making the most of every opportunity. And this invitation pathway, people will get to know Jesus one touch, one talk, one table at a time. That's it for me. I'll see you next time.